If you have been injured in the gym after making some great progress and now you're sidelined, then this is for you. This live stream podcast was motivated by a friend of Yanni and a really good friend of ours who started going to the gym for the first time in many, many years. He was really pumped up. He was training with some buddies who'd been going for years before him already. He was making really good progress, lots of strength gains. And 6 months later, he suffered a shoulder injury and an elbow injury that was so bad that it sidelined him for 12 months. And this is such a common thing that happens to people, is that they start going to the gym, they start making progress, they're really fired up, and then they get a really bad injury and it sidelines them. And people just go crazy. They don't understand why. And I'm going to explain to you why that happens, because what it's all coming down to is that the nervous system, the adaptations to the nervous system occur much quicker than the adaptations to the muscle fibers and the connective tissue. I'm going to explain to you how that happens, why it happens, and what you can do about it to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. And hopefully that doesn't happen to you again. I'm guessing that if you're watching this and if you're going to stick with me, this is probably something that's happened to you or somebody that you know. Now, before we get started, before we get into it, the boring stuff, if you watch my content and you enjoy it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It makes a huge difference for us. So head over to YouTube, go to Unity Gym, and click the subscribe button. And this show is brought to you by VPA Australia. They're our supplement sponsor, and we've been using VPA supplements for 12 years now. We used them long before they were sponsoring us, and we actually, when we started to grow on social media and on YouTube, we started getting contacted by a lot of supplement companies that wanted us to use their stuff and promote it. And I reached out to VPA because I didn't want to just be a sellout and just take the money and get whatever supplements we could. So I reached out to the company that we truly believe in, that has the highest quality supplements that we've been using already for a decade. And they sponsored us. So you guys can go over and get the same quality supplements that we're taking with a discount. So if you go to vpa.com.au and if you enter the code RAD10, that's RAD10 at checkout, you can get grass-fed whey protein, high quality creatine monohydrate, all the good stuff, great quality. And if you're overseas, contact them, tell them that I sent you to organize a flat shipping rate. And if you want to get incredible online coaching, if you want me to design your programs for you, if you want to work with me directly and get online coaching for everything you need, any injuries that you have, we can fix them all. We can get you stronger, build muscle, get flexible, all that great stuff, because the Unified Movement System is a program that combines strength and flexibility into the same workout, into really efficient workouts, so that you can outperform your younger self. Then go over to unitygym.com to get started. All right, now let's get into the content. So today, as I said, talking about people that have gone to the gym, got really motivated, got fired up, wanted to get, lose fat, build muscle, whatever it is. They can feel themselves getting stronger. They're lifting more. They're getting pumped up. And all of a sudden, bang, this injury comes in and completely sidelines them. And often it's a bad enough injury that in Yanni and my buddy's case, it stopped him being able to train for 12 months. And when Yanni explained to him what I'm about to explain to you, he said, God, I wish I knew that before I started at the gym. And what it is that the adaptations that occur to strength training, I want you to think of putting it down into two categories. There's the neuromuscular adaptations, or the adaptations that happen within the nervous system. So you cannot see these adaptations. You do not get bigger from the adaptations that occur in the nervous system, but you can feel them. You can feel yourself getting stronger. You'll go from being able to do 10-pound dumbbells on bicep curls to being able to do 15-pound or 20 pounds. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so much stronger. And then there's the adaptations that occur to the tissues in your body. And you'll feel these too, but you can see these adaptations because this is muscles getting bigger, The adaptations to the connective tissue you won't see, but the adaptations that occur to ligaments and tendons as well. Now, the problem is that the adaptations that occur to the nervous system happen much, much faster than the adaptations that occur to the tissues within the body. So your nervous system will adapt very quickly. Within 30 days, you can see a significant increase in strength in the nervous system, which means you can lift more weight. So you'll be able to lift more weight. But there has been zero adaptation that has occurred within the tissues within the body. And here lies the problem. Because several months later, let's call it 3-4 months later, you can be literally twice as strong as you were when you started your gym training. Literally. Like you could go to the gym. I've seen people that within 3 or 4 months, they could barely squat, 40 kilos or 85, 90 pounds, whatever that is. And 3 months later, 4 months later, they're squatting double that amount of weight. So their nervous system strength has adapted very, very quickly, but their muscles, their connective tissue, it hasn't caught up at all. And what I want to explain to you really quickly is what goes on in the nervous system. And good morning, Amber. Thanks for saying hello. Good to see you on the stream. So in the nervous system, the way that the brain contracts muscles, there's something called a motor unit, which is basically, it's comprised of neurons, the connection to the brain and the connection to the muscle fibers. So think of that as being like, the connection that goes from the brain to the muscles. And when it gets into the muscle body, so if you think of, any muscle in your body, the bicep, for example, the bicep is 2 muscles. That's why it's called bicep. But anyway, let's imagine it's 1 muscle. So you've got your bicep here. Within the bicep, there is many, 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 many muscle fibers. Muscle fibers are tiny. And the muscle fibers are controlled by motor units. So one motor unit will control many muscle fibers. And what happens is that there's an electrical signal that gets sent from the brain through the neural connection into the motor unit that then contracts the muscle fibers, or it innervates the muscle fibers. And what that does is it causes the muscle fibers to contract. And that's all a muscle fiber can do. A muscle fiber can either contract or relax. It's the only function a muscle fiber has. So any movement that happens in the body is happening from, the brain controlling all these motor units and contracting multiple different muscle fiber or motor units that contract multiple muscle fibers in different muscle systems in the body to create all this movement. And if you look at me moving, even me moving my mouth, my tongue, all of it, it's all happening, at lightning speeds. So that's a motor unit. That's important to understand before I go into the rest of what I'm going to talk about. Now, within the nervous system, there are 6 adaptations that occur, 6 strength adaptations that occur. So the first adaptation is recruitment. So it's an increase in the number of motor units being activated for a specific movement. So this is one of the first things that happens. So if you think about when you first go to pick up weights and your brain goes, yeah, let's recruit motor units, it's only recruiting a very small amount of the potential motor units that it can recruit. So imagine the brain isn't even able to recruit all the muscle fibers when it starts. And so one of the first adaptations that occurs is that the brain can actually recruit more motor units, which means it's using more of the muscle to contract, okay? The second adaptation is the rate coding or the firing rate. So that's a decrease in the time between each electromagnetic signal being sent to the corresponding musculature, which increases the rate of contraction, okay? So there's less time going on between when the brain can contract these muscles, these motor units and these muscles, which means that there's more contractions happening in less time, okay? Which means you get stronger. The third is a synchronization or intramuscular coordination, which is a decrease in the amount of time between motor units firing and working together. Okay, so another thing that makes you stronger. The fourth is contribution or intramuscular coordination, which is how effectively timed the different contributing muscles to a movement are fired. And then fifth is the antagonistic inhibition or reciprocal inhibition, which is a reduction in resistance from the opposing muscles that are performing a movement. So if you look at the elbow, you've got your biceps, your triceps, they're opposing movements. If we want to flex the elbow, if we want to pull the arm towards us like this and do a bicep curl, we have to contract the biceps and we have to relax the triceps. So that's an increase in the body's ability to do that, which sounds funny, doesn't it? But the body struggles to contract only the muscles that it needs to, the brain, I should say, for a movement in the earlier stages. And then number 6, the last one, is the motor learning, which refers to the neural connections and programs within the brain that will affect your development of learning movements. And that's a big one. People who are more adept at movement, who are more learned, who have been doing it for longer, will pick up new movements quicker, and they'll be able to learn how to contract their muscles with movements that they've never done before faster than somebody who hasn't improved that adaptation. Now, all of those things are going on when you start strength training. So when you go to the gym and you start doing push-ups or chest press and bent over row or ring rows and squats or leg extensions or whatever it is that you're doing, all of those adaptations are occurring. And that's what's making you be able to get stronger. Well, that's what's increasing your strength, I should say. So that's why you go to the gym a week later, 2 weeks later, and you're like, oh my God, I can lift more weight than I could 2 weeks ago. And so here lies the problem with people that don't understand what I'm about to say. The muscles, the muscle fibers, the hypertrophy to muscle fibers usually doesn't occur until after the 90-day mark. So after repeated stimulus over and over again for a beginner at around the it varies from person to person. For some people it can happen quicker than that, but some people it can take even longer. Some people it can take 4, 5, 6 months before they start seeing any muscle hypertrophy. So you've gotten stronger, you can lift more, but the muscle fibers haven't actually thickened yet as a response to the strength training, which means that physiologically that the actual muscle fibers aren't capable of carrying that much more load yet. And then the connective tissues, the tendons and the ligaments take even longer. They can take 12 months and even longer than that to have any adaptation occur to the strength training. So in the case of our friend, he was talking about all these, strength that he was getting and everything, and Yanni was really trying to put the brakes on him. But it's so hard to get somebody to slow down in the early stages of their gym training. It's really, really hard, especially when they're training with people who are completely contradicting what somebody like my brother and I would be saying. They're saying, come on, man, we're going to lift heavier. You're doing great. And you go into the gym, you feel good. You've got all the endorphins pumping. You've got your adrenaline going. You're feeling great. You want to lift more. And bang, really nasty shoulder injury. I'm not exactly sure what the injury was, and also an elbow injury, but bad enough that it just completely sidelined him from gym training for 12 months. And unfortunately, that's even false as well, because we can always train in the presence of injury. It's just about understanding what exercises you can and can't do, which is something that Yanni and I excel at with the help of our physical therapists. So this is something that you can avoid yourself, or if you've had it happen to you, you can avoid it happening again by just training smart and by understanding that even though you are so much stronger and you can lift more weight, if you just understand that your tissues haven't had a chance to catch up yet, your muscles haven't, until you can at least see that there is some hypertrophy going on in your muscles, that you can go, wow, I've gotten heavier, or see it on the scales, without putting on body fat, that you can see that you've put on weight, from the muscle fibers thickening. In the very, very least, you want to be very careful with how much weight you go up and how quickly you go up. And what we often do with people in the first several phases of their programming in the UMS, in the Unified Movement System, is that we get people to stay roughly on the same weight. We tell people to train no more than 70% of their max effort in their first several phases. And people ask why, and I explain this exact concept. Because you'll feel like you can lift more, but the tissues haven't adapted yet. And when you're training at 70% max effort, it means you can train more consistently. You won't have such bad DOMS, the delayed onset of muscle soreness. You'll be able to train more consistently without being in pain or discomfort. You have a dramatically reduced risk of injury. And it allows you to focus more on technique optimization, which is really important in the earlier phases of training. So I hope this helps you guys. I really hope that this gives you some food for thought. For any of you out there that have had this kind of issue before, that have gone to the gym, started getting stronger, and then only to be sidelined by a really nasty injury, then I really hope that this is going to give you some food for thought and give you some ammunition to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future. Now, something else that I do very rarely, but I'm going to start doing more of it because I'm getting asked this, and I forget that I just sort of throw that term out all the time, UMS, and people are starting to ask, what is the UMS? So the UMS is the Unified Movement System. It is the system that my brother Yanni and I have created in order to make people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s get in better shape than they were in their 20s, and deal with it. On Insta is saying good stuff. Got to check my ego, man. You do. We all do. Like one of the biggest lessons that I've had in my 40s is learning to just check my ego and just allow the adaptation to occur and not try to force it. And I had some really bad life-changing injuries at age 39 and 40, slap tears, and I had many injuries in the years before that as well, just really trying to force progression, and it didn't work out well for me. Since I've changed my mindset and really gone deeper into the long haul with training, I haven't been injured at all in the last 6 years, and I'm making really good progress. So the UMS, the Unified Movement System. So when we started our personal training journey and we were writing programs for people to build muscle, to get stronger, to lose fat, people were getting injured because we were training them. We were training for their ego, basically. We were allowing them to dictate the kind of program that they got. I want to build muscle, so give me a program that's going to build muscle as quick as possible. And hypertrophy training to build muscle and strength training to get stronger is so demanding on the body. It is, you really have to put your body under very high levels of stress to see any great results. And so the first thing that we started to do is that we decided that we were going to write structural balance training programs for everybody, no matter what their goals were. And immediately, all of our clients, not only were they not getting injured, but they were telling us after a couple of months, oh my God, my body feels better than it has in 20 years. I haven't felt like this since I was a teenager. All my aches and pains are gone, because we were addressing imbalances in the body, imbalances from left to right side, imbalances from opposing muscle systems, imbalances from strength and flexibility, imbalances from the inner unit of stabilization muscles like the rotator cuff and the outer unit of prime movers like the deltoids, pecs, lats, and balance between upper and lower body, and balance from left to right side. And so when all of that happens, all the aches and pains start to go. And then when I started to learn about flexibility when I was 36, I think I was, and I started to learn calisthenics, I wanted to learn a press to handstand, couldn't get my hands on the ground, so I wasn't even close to a press to handstand. So I started to learn about flexibility. Couldn't find a coach that could teach me how to combine strength and flexibility together. I was just told, oh, look, I'm sorry, I'm the flexibility guy, I can't help you. Or our strength training coaches were telling us, don't do flexibility with strength training. You'll completely stifle your progress and yada, yada, yada. And so I was forced to find a way myself. And I started doing really long workouts where I was, I first started doing strength and flexibility workouts separately, which was way too much stress on my life. Then I started doing one really long workout where I'd do all my strength training, then all my flexibility training. Took about 3 hours, was just exhausting, unmanageable. And then I decided, stuff this, I'm going to start doing my flexibility training in between my strength training sets. And that was the aha moment. That was the breakthrough, because my workouts all of a sudden were halved. Instead of sitting there resting for 2 or 3 minutes between strength training exercises, I was using that time to do flexibility. And that was the real birth of the UMS, the Unified Movement System, where we combine strength and flexibility into the same workout to get more done in less time, create structural balance, overcome aches and pains that you've had for years, and get you in better shape than you have ever before, probably. That's what our reviews say. And if you go and check it out on Google, we've now got over 320 5-star reviews with a 5-star average rating. And if you want to learn more about it, go to unitygym.com. Amber is one of our tribe members and saying, being new to the foundations gym workouts with the UMS and taking into account what you just said about not forcing adaptation, how does someone know the amount of weight to start with? Amber, because you've been training already with me for over a year, your tissues have already adapted, at least somewhat. You're definitely not at this beginner level. So the amount of weight to start with, honestly, I recommend people for the first 3 phases of the UMS, for the structural balance phase, is that they don't go above, for somebody who's really new, don't go above 70% max effort. But for somebody like you, I wouldn't go above about 80 to 90% max effort. So what does that mean? It means that in every set that you do, you should finish by feeling like you still have 1 or 2 reps left in the tank. We're going to push you to max effort from phase 4 and onward, because phase 4 is when we're going to do 5x5 training. So that's much heavier, where you do 5 sets of 5 reps. And then phase 5, we're going to do supersets. Then phase 6, we're going to do wave loading, which is even heavier than 5x5. You'll be doing some sets where you're doing only 2 reps per set, doing your 2 RM. So all that heavy lifting and that max effort stuff is coming up. So for now, just stick to about 80 to 90% max effort. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope you're getting value out of this. I can see a lot of you on the live stream. If you've made it this far, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps us with the algorithm get this content out there. And tomorrow I will be continuing to talk more about the adaptations that occur from training. So that is a question for tomorrow. You say that structural balance workouts can heal injuries, then how can you get golfer's elbow doing it? It doesn't make you immune to injuries, man. You're still subject to poor load management. And the answer to your question is it was poor load management. I was just doing too much work on my wrist flexors, and I developed golfer's elbow. And then I was able to overcome it in less than 6 months by using, you guessed it, structural balance training. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for your attention. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.